Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people have probably heard of 214B, 214B, which is one of the refusal codes, and that's the main one. And what it basically says, to put it technically first, is it says that the burden is upon the applicant to prove that they have the ties and that they will use their visa well and return to their home country after their stay in the U.S. Basically, what that means for the visa officers, that's their carte blanche refusal that they can give to anybody that they just aren't sure about. If they aren't sure you're going to use your visa in the right way when you go to the US. And what that means is that when they're doing this interview, they're basically trying to separate who they think is going to be a real student and do what they say they're going to do, and who is not going to do what they say they're going to do, which could be, not studying when they get to the US and immediately working, or transfer. Some people, are not in schools that maybe are requiring a lot of tests to get in. And there's not a lot of stringent entrance requirements, and so they think that maybe these students aren't actually bona fide students and they're going to the US for some other purpose. So the goal in the interview is to go in and convince the visa officer that you do have this intent to go to the US, actually engage in your studies, and then come home. Now, to you who are a legitimate student, this may seem crazy. Like, why would they think that I'm not a legitimate student? Well, the reason is because there are other people who are not legitimate students. And let's say even if there's only 5% of student visa applicants in India that go in and actually are trying to trick the visa officers, and they're trying to go to a school, but they're not actually planning to study. They've got their uncle in the US and they're just going to go work for their uncle. Well, what that does, it means that those 5% then cast doubts on all the other 95%. And so the visa officers are never relaxed. They're never just confident. They're always thinking, is this one of the 5% that's trying to deceive me? And that's why you get all that scrutiny. So let's think about this just from a psychological perspective. When you know you're going into that interview and you know that that officer is going to be suspicious, well, if you're very passive in that interview and you don't say a lot and you just answer their questions very simply, you're basically just hoping that that visa officer decides that you're part of the 95% good applicants and not the 5% bad applicants. I would rather not leave it up to chance. I would rather not just leave it up to fate. I would rather take it into my own hands and try to maximize my chances of convincing that visa officer. And the way to do that is what I call being a proactive interviewee. You have to be an active interviewee, right? Usually we think the interviewee is the person who's just passive. The interviewer asks the questions and you give an answer. Well, as a proactive interviewee, what you need to do is identify what's important in your application and then offer up that information, even if they don't ask you for it, but offer up that information. Maybe your father's business, or occupation, or maybe he's retired, but your mother actually is a businesswoman who's very successful. Well, if they ask, okay, well, what does your father do? If you just say, oh, my father is retired, and you don't ever mention that your mother has this really successful business, and she's actually the person who's the breadwinner for the family, because your father's older and retired, well, they're never going to know that, right? Their question about your father, what's your father's business? It's really a broader question that they're asking, which is, why should I give you the visa, right? They're not just asking, I need to know exactly what your father's business is. Their question is really, what credentials do you have? What circumstances do you have that make me not have any doubts and make me know that I can issue you your visa? So you have to go into the interview very alert and very perceptive, and turn on your empathy and your people skills to listen to that visa officer and know, okay, I'm hearing he's asking about money and plans and real estate and savings. He's got concerns about my finances. So I need to tell him very clearly in a very concise but thorough way, this is what our family's finances are. That we've got this loan, we've got this real estate that was used as collateral for the loan, and this is how we're going to pay this back.